Tonight is a big night. I'm going camping, but it's a wild camp, and it's my first ever wild camp. It's also my first ever solo wild camp on my first wild camp. Feeling much nervous, apprehension, excitement. Don't know how it's gonna go. I'm gonna take you along with me for the ride and let's see what happens.
I've always said to myself I'd love to do a wild camp, but up until now I've always put it off, waiting for someone else to do one with me so my first one wouldn't be alone. But you are what you do and not what you say or think. So recently I decided to stop waiting on other people and decided to face my fear and do my first wild camp solo.
Just where it was needed, gleaming black as night, cloistered in injustice, dead in the eye of time. Nobody is losing, faces merchant change.
So this is something I've been wanting to do for quite a long time now. But recently the urge has been really building and building. I've been really wanting to do it, but then the closer or stronger that urge got to go out and do it, the more the bad voices in my mind started making me feel really nervous about it. I've got a very overactive imagination, so for me the thing about wild camping is a big fear of noises in the night that would just freak me out, and just the idea of people finding me. Particularly as a woman, even though I know realistically it'd be absolutely fine, I just feel quite vulnerable. So yeah, I've been putting it off for ages, but I just told myself, no, Chloe, you just got to bite the bullet and go out and do it.
A significant life, just what it was needed, clean in the blackest night. Cloistered in injustice, dead, and in the eyes of time, nobody is losing.
Can you hear that in the background? That kind of zingy, metallic sounding bird. That's the yellowhammer. They look like they sound like, well, they're not a hammer, but they are yellow. They're a bird that you'll typically find on kind of farmland and scrubby edges, just like where I am. But the one thing people generally say to listen out for to help ID their song is a little bit of bread and no cheese. If you listen to them saying it, it kind of sounds like they're following the river. Strategy to deal with my apprehension is the same as my strategy to deal with any kind of nerves I have, and that's just to tell myself there's no point worrying now if the thing you're worrying about is not happening right now. So I'm currently not in the tent in the darkness with spooky noises, so don't waste your energy thinking about it. And if you just keep putting it off, the worry, until the very moment when you are worried, then you're kind of in the moment and you've got to deal with it. Then you just skip that whole anxious waiting part. So that's the strategy. While the light's still out though, it's fine. It's really nice evening. It's still warm. Farmers' fields glowing gold, with the sun going down. Birds still are up, which is always a comforting sound. So it's fine at the moment. We'll see how I do when it's dark, when I'm in the woods. Everything's creaking. You can see I haven't come too far from home. That's my hometown in Forsham, just there. So I've kept it local for my first one. I didn't know whether it would be better to go kind of really remote for my first one, since my major worry more is people, so being so close to the town, obviously there's more likely chance of meeting people out here. Although I walk here quite often and I very rarely see people. People just don't come out into the countryside, really. But in the end, I decided no, it'd be best to stay local, just because if I have any issues or, yeah, just easing myself in to the first one, I thought would be better in the end. I've just got to find a place where I feel confident people aren't going to see me, since that's my biggest worry. One of my ideas was just to see in the corner of this field, it actually dips down lower and it's surrounded by forest in that little corner, so I thought that could be one spot. No, sadly that spot's not going to work. I've just come a bit further down the track, and if you were someone coming up from this way, you can easily see it. It's not actually concealed at all. That's fine. On to the next. It would have been nice to kind of be out more in the open. I'd like to watch the sunset go down, have a bit more open air. But if it's not to be, it's not to be. Time. The way the light falls through the trees, it creates really lovely light patterns, and when you're walking along with the trees lined up in parallel next to you, the sun just suddenly like blurts through at different intervals. It's kind of like it's trying to communicate in Morse code with you. I think it's telling me to relax, that everything will be fine.
Forests can often feel a bit spooky when you're alone and the light is fading. There was a certain magical quality to this one on this particular eve. Strips of light painted bark different shades, and flies hummed and droned lazily wherever it fell, as if drunk on the rays. I felt pretty intoxicated with it myself, to be honest, and I spent a lot of time staring at the patterns of shadow and light upon the forest floor. If you looked up through the canopy or through the branches of the trees into the light, it splintered and fractured into a million pieces, nature's own kaleidoscope. It was hard to have apprehensive thoughts with such light and beauty around. It's no wonder we associate demons and vampires with night, and that folklore says they need dark and can't come out in the sun. It seems like a metaphor, with the origins of this simply being that the demons in our minds have no strength in the light of day, but can take hold at night in its absence. As the last of the sun's rays came through the trees, it felt like they were giving me one last pep talk, making me look tall and strong through my shadow upon the ground.
Okay, I think I'm gonna camp here. The logic is, it's well away from the footpath, so no one's just gonna wander past on a path and see me. There's also a massive depression site just in front of me, and I was originally planning to camp in there, but actually is, I don't know, just feels a bit exposed to me, even though it's not really, I'm just being paranoid. So I've come over that depression site into another tiny little embankment with hedgerow, like nettles on one side and then the bank on the other, and I'll just snuggle in at the bottom. This is my spot. And here's the humble abode for the night. It's a really, really cheap tent. You know, my parents just got it for us to use as kids in the garden, so you wouldn't want it in any kind of non-nice weather. But tonight it's warm, it's not going to be windy, it's not going to be rainy, and it's the only small tent that we have. So yeah, gone with it. I can't even see it, my tent is in a ditch just there. Okay, it's time to move in for my home for the night. I don't know if you can hear, but there must be a sheep field, like literally just there. So all I can hear is bleating. Actually, at the moment I'm finding it really comforting. It's quite nice. I may take that back later when I'm trying to sleep. But for now, it's lovely. So this is my roll mat. I think it's a pretty good one. I forget which one it is. I think it's like a Neo Air Pro Firmer-esque thing. I don't know. Before I went to Chile to like camp in Patagonia, I suddenly realised like I didn't have a roll mat, so obviously I needed one. So I kind of just went on Facebook while I was living out in Whistler and was just seeing what people were selling. Whistler's a really outdoor community, so this amazing Firmer-esque was going cheap, so I bagged that. Also have my sleeping bag. I don't know if you can see that, but it is pretty big. Again, this was like the Firmer-esque, like that one. This was a purchase before Chile because they had no warm stuff and Chile was going to be chilly. I was going to do lots of hiking there, including the amazing W trek. So it's the Four Seasons, and it's meant to comfortably go down to -11, which is an absolute must for me because I get very, very, very cold. And they sold it as being small and lightweight, and it is. I mean, compared to my head, this thing is massive. It literally like took up most of my backpack when we were trekking, which is not what you want. It just about kept me warm, but to be honest, that's not a disservice to the sleeping bag. That's disservice to me. I just struggle in the cold, which is why I've got a 4-season really warm sleeping bag in the middle of the English summer. If it can't keep me warm here, then nothing else can. If there is one thing I'm good at when it comes to camping, it's putting the most important items in a readily accessible pocket. And today, that is my dark chocolate. Hello, this is the only way I can talk to you and have you see me. I'm just gonna go to bed now. Yeah, it's not actually that dark out. I just recording on my phone and can't pick up any kind of light. Feeling pretty relaxed at the moment. I don't know if you can hear the sheep, but they're still going. I hope they keep going, to be honest. It's quite nice. I'm just gonna eat some dark chocolate and read my book, which is The Last Hill Walker. I thought I'd choose an adventurous book to get me in the spirit. This is the book I will be reading, The Last Hill Walker by John D. Burns. It's basically this guy's accounts of 40 years in Britain's mountains, so Lake District, Cairngorm. But it's also got a much deeper meaning of just being about kind of a call to arms, a rallying cry for us all to reconnect back to these wild places, and this idea that it just seems to be in decline. You know, the book's called The Last Hill Walker. He's talking about they seem to be a dying breed, which we're not. I will not let it be so. But it's a lovely read. Thoroughly recommend it. Such bright. Okay, this is probably going to wake me up now, but I'm feeling quite tired, so I think it's time to go to bed. All being well, I will see you in the morning. Night. Keep still, have not shut up. Can you hear that song fresh? The soundtrack to my morning. That was my wake up alarm today. It's lovely. Very musical song, fresh. I made it through the night. What do you know? It was fine. It was absolutely fine. Although I take it back about those sheep that I said were nice to have around in here, because they went the whole night through. I didn't realise sheep were so vocal. That shows how naive I am about them. They just, do they not need to sleep? Do they not get frustrated at one another? It's like each one is saying to the other, shut up, and then the next one says shut up, and they just go all night telling each other to be quiet. No one actually is quiet. So there was always that, but there were other nice sounds, like, I don't know, there's like brackeny bushes out there, so I could hear rustling a lot, so I wonder if it was like a deer settling down to bed, or maybe a fox track as well. Yeah, didn't sleep the best. Well, it took me a long while to get off to sleep. It took me a long while to get off. And it was quite broken sleep. I do actually feel quite rested. It was just that when I did wake up, my body like was trying to put me into really high alert mode, like trying to listen, wouldn't let me just switch off, even though in my head actually I wasn't worried at all. It was like my head was trying, but Chloe, you should be worried, you should be worried. It was absolutely fine. Oh, I feel great. Fear conquered. I've done it. Okay, time to get home for some breakfast and to go to work. This was a Monday evening I camped. I hate having to wait till weekends to do adventures. You know you're the first person through a path when you just keep walking into spiders' webs, like going all over my face. I'm a trailblazer. I'm a trailblazer.
Heading home, I was greeted by the same beautiful streams of light and playful shadows as I said goodnight to the day previous. As the sun rose, so did my spirits. It felt great to have done my first wild camp, but I didn't get a big rush. It was more a quiet content and stillness.
The yellowhammer's back at it again. Remember a little bit of bread and no cheese and the metallic zingy tone? So much for watching and for coming along with me. Even though obviously I know you're through a screen, just having you there through the camera was really reassuring. It didn't feel like I was completely doing it alone, and it actually made the process a whole lot easier, so thank you. If you've done a wild camp, I'd love to know, where was your first wild camp? How did you feel? Did you feel apprehensive like me, or you just really excited? And how did it go? And do you still wild camp now? And if you haven't wild camped, do you want to? Or if not, what is your equivalent? What is something like me that you've been wanting to do for ages, but a bit of fear or nervousness has been holding you back? I dare you to do it.